game 3.
And now as we enter picks and bans, a lot of things remaining the same. LeBlanc, Elise, H2K happy to keep the same bans from last game despite the lack of success that they found. J4 banned out from Fnatic as well. Very similar so far.
No Kalista ban. That is the one change. We've seen Kalista banned on red side in every single game. It is being left open, and this might be Fnatic saying, you know what, Nuclear? We're not afraid of your Kalista.
But I'm not sure what they would replace the ban with.
They could still just ban it and actually trying to see if H2K maybe are afraid that actually being left open and they have to trade their Tristana for Kalista. They're banning this Tristana, basically yelling to Fnatic across the stage saying, you should ban Kalista now.
Hey, you want to play Kalista Xayah? Bring it.
Ban Kalista is what they're trying to tell Fnatic.
But I think Fnatic will say, you know, yeah, we're fine. Oh, this is 10. This final ban.
I'm actually really curious to see if they're going to ban the Kalista away.
Okay.
Oh.
They got the hint. Probably was holding up the sign, being like, hey, we banned Tristana. Don't give us Kalista for free. You should also ban it. I like that Fnatic are trying to bait him into this kind of trap here where H2K might have had to decide between Tristana or Kalista for a first pick.
And now H2K, after getting crushed by the Xayah in the laning phase, they want it themselves. They do not want to make Nuclear play up against it again.
So Gnar likely to be another high priority pick for the side of Fnatic, and Sivir has been left available if Rekkles wants to pick it up. He actually brought out a Jhin during the semifinals, and there was a lot of question marks around, hey, maybe you should have gone for more of a teamfight AD carry.
But baby, there is a teamfight
it.
AD carry. Sivir comes in for Rekkles. Now, this has been banned away, was banned away previously by H2K.
Very high priority pick for Fnatic that they take it this early. Now, of course, coming in, as you highlighted, Vedius, bit of a no-brainer for Source, it almost feels like, after he was fine in the laning phase against the Rumble last time.
And we know that Alistar, by many pros, is considered a very strong pick into the Sivir because you cannot spell shield the full combo, so you're guaranteed to set up some kind of CC onto the AD carry down the bottom lane. Already H2K, they got exactly what we were talking about earlier on. Playmaker, Roma for Che, and you have a lot of options to set up around.
Hold on. No.
Stop, it's a hover.
It's a counter pick to Gnar! It is a counter pick to Gnar, technically. But see, all of Paris was baited too, Vedius. It's not just me. They got excited. But I do like what we're seeing here from the H2K camp. I like that Che is now on Alistar, this playmaking support you talked about. You want him to be able to roam freely and leave the lane. But unfortunately for them, it looks like Fnatic may just have an answer.
I mean, if it is the Morgana, yeah, it makes it harder for the Alistar to execute his combo, but he can still leave the lane and have a lot of value in a team fight. And there's actually also a lot of play around Morgana's Black Shield. Because if you just Q flashes an Alistar, most of the time Morgana will not land the Black Shield in time, and you can still focus it down then if you are ganking that lane. So there's definitely a lot of mixed opinions about this matchup for the two supports in terms of how fast can Morgana hit the Black Shield and can Alistar just play around it. We'll have to see in-game. I just like the fact that H2K also take away Xayah. It was such a good pick. We said Xayah, Syndra, those were two of the big ones that found a lot of success in the last game, and of course Xayah in the first game for Rekkles in the laning phase. So I like the takeaway. And
now Fnatic have the luxury of last pick for either their jungler or their mid laner. They are set up to have a successful jungle mid kind of matchup from this point moving forward. So we have to see what H2K want to do, what they want to take off the table. For now, it is the Cassio. Fnatic banning away the Corki. So mid lane, clearly both teams are aware of everything that we've been discussing. They know it themselves too, that mid lane has been the crux for both of these teams when it comes to finding a win.
Wow, they actually banned away the Lucian as well. A lot of respect being given over towards Febiven. We talked about how he is one of the best performing Lucians that we have in Europe. And it is just going to be taken off the board right now. So H2K, they don't have that strong AD mid laner, but there's still a lot of strong mid laners left. The Syndra, we consider it a very strong pick, especially in this series, just setting up your mid laner for success. But the Orianna is available too, and both are likely going to be traded in this series, but there's always that possibility of the Tali. Even after the nerfs, I still think this could come out in this series.
H2K actually banning the mid lane Galio, so in case Fnatic does not pick Syndra here, Febiven can grab it for himself, and he won't get counterpicked by Galio in the mid lane. And Fnatic are saving the last pick for Caps. He is a player, and I'm just going to say it, who plays Aurelion Sol, and it is a champion that you can pull out, especially against a lot of these like mages in the mid lane.
More or less legitimate than me getting excited about the Yasuo and top lane and Gnar.
Aurelion Sol is always legit. Whenever it gets played on stage, it is very powerful. But it's H2K's turn for now. With the Galio ban, it is signaling to me the Syndra pick is what they're looking towards. But let's see if they have other ideas. It's going to be Orianna then. So Galio ban to me, kind of wasted.
Orianna, all right. Well, now they have a delivery system with the Cow combined with the Orianna. Sejuani has been a solid pick for Jankos thus far in this series. Wonder if he'll go to it again.
Do it, do it, do it. No. I actually get really excited about him. I thought he had huge potential.
You got it. I got
massive change.
Not Yasuo, but a Mumu.
Yeah, but he could actually work. Not here, not today. It's
right.
going to be the Sejuani. We're not going to get into why a Mumu could work. Let's not go down there.
Spare me the Mumu.
Let's look at the most meta comps that I think we can have in the current 7-16 meta.
Morgana's a slight mix-up, Vedius.
Slightly, but yes.
We do once again see two different compositions in terms of what they want to accomplish, but the thing we keep coming back to every time we see these teams play, and now here again in Game 3, is who has the advantage when it comes to mid lane, to setting up plays around mid lane, to looking for the early aggression.
And this time it will be Fnatic again with the Syndra and the Gragas body slam gank. It can be very hard for an Orianna to escape. Sejuani is again more powerful if she goes to lanes with big melee champions where she can connect her stun very easily. So that is towards the top side, but again, ganking for Cho'Gath early. A lot of teams do not actually look to do that and just leave him alone.
But the biggest thing for me is Che on the Alistar. Yes, okay, maybe Fnatic have the 2 versus 2 jungle mid advantage, but I don't know if they have the 3 versus 2, same sort of parameters. I'm excited to see what Che can do and if he can mimic the same sort of game on performance.
But this is why Fnatic locked in Morgana to say, you know what? We have now an AD carry who does nothing but just perma push a lane. We have a black shield and a spell shield to stop any engages from happening. They want to try and keep Che in the lane. Keep Che locked down so he can't just roam to the mid lane and get pressure on Caps. If they succeed, suddenly Justice can actually leave the lane and he can go and help the Syndra and get Caps further ahead.
Well, the series is locked 1-1. We're going to find out who takes the edge, who moves us to a match point scenario as we get geared up and ready for Game 3. H2K versus Fnatic. Two teams that struggled in the semifinals now showing us so much more here in the third place match. Paris is ready. Hope you're ready at home as well, because ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Game 3.
And I think you said it perfectly, Dracos. Both teams did struggle a lot in the semifinals. Both teams wanted to demonstrate their skill, their potential here in the third place match. And while this series doesn't mean a huge amount, it can mean a lot for morale, confidence, going into the gauntlet that will determine our final seed for Worlds.
And talking about the gauntlet, Fnatic will be the final boss in the gauntlet no matter what happens today, because they've got more points in the summer split compared to Unicorns of Love. So that means Fnatic will only have to win one best of 5 to make Worlds. H2K, on the other hand, will have to run the entire gauntlet to make it to Worlds. They're starting with Splice, then they will have to play Unicorns, and then they will have to play Fnatic again.
This is the hardest path to the world of any team, let's be clear, because after they dropped out in quarterfinals, after they suffered now in semis, only because every team that appeared in playoffs in spring also appeared in summer, where they even guaranteed a spot in the gauntlets. Now, as you mentioned, they have to fight their way from the bottom. But I feel like if they can show us here that they don't collapse under pressure, that they can go toe-to-toe with the top team, then maybe they can run the gauntlet, that they can take down all these top teams.
And I think that's the biggest thing for me, Dracos. Can H2K perform right now? Because they had a good Game 1, they struggled in Game 2, but that shouldn't be enough of a tilter. They realized that they fell behind, and I'm hoping that they learn from their mistakes and give us a close Game 3, as we just see a bit more trading now in the bottom lane.
Seeing how Nuclear does, we have to keep our eyes on this guy. Wonder exactly what his plans are going to be. Now with the Xayah in his control, we have to hope for a better laning phase. But once again, as bot lane trading happens, mostly it's been the CS advantages coming out. It's the mid lane where the majority of the action has occurred. Right now it is Febiven in control of the push.
Which is why we are looking at both junglers again and seeing, will they go to mid lane early? It is easier for Caps to set up a gank with Broxah than for Febiven to set up a gank with Sejuani here. Both mid laners picking Cleanse as well, expecting a lot of stuff to happen around the lane. And also for the late game, if you get hit by Sejuani ulti as a squishy mid laner, you most likely die.
And I really want to bring attention to that side boot you can see from Broxah. The difference in his jungle proximity from game 1 to game 2 is immense. He was so much more involved in the early game, setting up his laners for success. And that was a large part as to why Fnatic were able to win that game. But now Broxah, he's got his eyes on the top lane. Level 3,
switching it up. Spicy, he's not going mid lane.
For more. Cho'Gath with no escapes.
That was a letdown.
Okay, he has the same escape every champion has, which is he can walk away. Not quite the gank that they wanted, but Brock's at least looking for the early attention. Does mean that Gnar now feels a little more comfortable pushing in.
I'm actually just surprised he did not go straight towards mid lane. Like, this early on, it's hard to have everything fully warded.
Oh, have a pulverize. Reckless takes a lot of damage. Jay and Nuclear starting to get more aggressive.
Sejuani with Jankos here, I mean Jankos with Sejuani, is currently...
Careful now, Jankos, because you don't have your mid laner there, Aoki. He's just going to deny the blast cone.
It's the high five again.
Every game, guys.
It's like they're building their own sort of ritual handshake thing that every time they go into the jungle, now they're just going to use as an opportunity to get a bit more vision control around the bottom side of the map. You can see Chain moving up to help Jankos as he tries to set up for that invade.
Just wondering. Vision on both junglers, nullifying a lot of the early advantages, wondering where the first real source of action is going to come from, because we've seen a lot of individual plays besides so much of the advantages in the early game. Early Black Shield, though, means that for the next 20 seconds, Che is going to be pretty comfortable to look to force something.
I don't want to talk about Jesus on Morgana here, because he played it in the semi-final. He went Thunderlords as his keystone. He put skills in his W in the laning phase, and he tried to be a bit of a lane bully Morgana, which is not very successful, and I've actually not really seen any other players do it. He went away from that in this game. He's going for Stoneborn Pact here, so if he lands CC, he will apply a debuff called the Earthen Rune, and when someone hits that champion, they will get healed by it. Meaning, when Jesus builds an Ardent Sensor, it's very easy for the people of Fnatic here to just hit these targets he's CCing and get the Ardent Sensor proc.
Interesting to see him kind of back off the gas now, because they were so successful in the last few games, specifically Reckless absolutely dominating Nuclear when it comes to these individual performances. And while Jesus may have backed off, Broxah may be looking to get more, but look at that CS differential, 29 at 15. And in game 1, it was 19. So this has just been constant domination on the Xayah coming in from Reckless.
He's having a good series so far, really demonstrating his superiority over the bottom lane of H2K, who we did talk about did struggle against G2, but he seems to be hoping now that they can return to form a little bit, as Nuclear and Che do have a slight CS advantage in the 2 versus 2 down the bottom lane. Thanks to a few early levels, we're able to bully out the Sivir and the Morgana. But so far things very even between the two teams. No hyper-aggressive early plays. H2K looking to get a bit of deep vision control into Broxah's jungle.
Looking for each other. Sivir obviously always needs a few levels before she really starts perma-pushing that lane. Double longsword is not the greatest back from Reckless side, and he's against the BF sword on the side of Nuclear, which of course is quite superior in terms of the damage he can deal, but it does require Che still to land a combo against Spell Shield and Black Shield. So it is very, very difficult. Che will have to try and see maybe if he can actually bait Jesus to Black Shield the wrong target and then go for either the Morgana or the Sivir, depending on who did not get that Black Shield.
Fortunately, Jesus did not put any points in his W this time around.
Hey, he's not playing for lane, we love it.
He's just going for the Black Shield and the Binding as well. So playing full utility there to try and help out his AD carry. But also Infernal Drake on the board in this early game. So going to be a big point of focus for teams, not this early on, because again, we still have scaling on both sides. Something that we're seeing very much in the current meta, especially when Kallista's off the board, is that teams like to scale. 20 minutes once they get the 2 items, very much catered towards team fighting in the later game or around Dragons and Barons. That is what both teams are going towards, so there's no need to force any big plays in the early game.
And we talked a lot about that in game 1, but it didn't really come to fruition. We saw some of those individual plays, the surprise ganks toward mid lane, and while both teams could seem content to scale, I'm wondering if we're going to see any of these more aggressive plays now that the ultimates are starting to come in, now that Sivir is approaching that level 6, Xayah as well, mid laners already with their ultimates available.
I mean, again, it's kind of interesting that Broxah did not pay any attention towards mid in a game like this one, at least to try and put a bit of pressure onto Febvin. It's been just a free farm lane for both mid laners. No one has, as you said, really looked to be over-aggressive, and there is a fairly simple gank setup, at least to force the cleanse.
But look at the early boots there on Che. He hasn't gone for the mobility just yet. He wants to get himself the health crystal too. Likely his next back, if he can, he wants to get mobility and the sight stone as well. But his focus is on trying to move around the map. You can already see trying to use his opportunity to get a bit of deep wards around the bottom half of Fnatic's jungle. This is allowing Nuclear and Che to continue their aggression in the 2 versus 2.
February playing so aggressive in this mid lane. Few wards around him. They saw Broxah earlier as well. They will see Broxah again on this ward here, placed deep in the jungle. So February feeling very confident that he knows where the jungle is. Broxah might look for the first gank, but again, he's spotted by 1 and now 2 wards.
And this is important because Caps had such a fantastic game in Game 2. That Febiven is not playing scared, that Febiven is not backing off and sitting back, that he is still willing to be that aggressive laner that H2K need despite how it counted against him in that Game 2. Because you can see Caps, Game 1 was a struggle, but Game 2, man, looking awfully nice.
But look at the difference in jungle proximity. JP, as you see there, 12% in Game 1, 36% in Game 2. It's how much time is the jungler spending around Caps. And a massive jump in Game 1 to Game 2, and of course a big difference in the early goal difference.
Now you can see Che hanging off towards the flank. You can see that Febiven is there with him. They're looking for a setup on the dive in mid.
No ult available for Febiven, not going to pull the trigger. Broxah is there as well, but it could be the 3v2. Tower, the potential third man for Fnatic.
But I think what we've learned here, Dracos, is that when we play together, if you gank in the middle lane, the mid lane is better set up.
It's really weird because every time I talk to Deficio, he says I should gank the bottom lane, which is the lane that he's located in. Medic says the top lane, which is the lane he's... I'm starting to think you might be a little biased.
Statistics clearly suggest that when you invest resources, you are very set up for success. Now, they're going to use this pressure that they've gained from the mid lane in order to move towards the blue buff. So Febiven, realizing that utilizing Chase pressure to set up for the dive allows them to get this blue.
But we have to remember, H2K just used their push in the bot lane to try and create a play that didn't end up in anything but a blue buff. So now it's Fnatic's turn to actually say, okay, you just made a play, we avoided it, now we can make a play, and they're going to the top lane and trying to get a lot of damage on the tower here. Bottom lane, the same is happening from H2K's side, so both teams looking to trade towers.
And you can also see Odo moving to the mid as well, so this means that H2K, they have full control over the river. The Rift Herald will be spawning relatively soon, but they're going for a play onto Reckless.
Trying to lock him down. Jez is there as well. Che trying to come in. Jez is not there, rather in the mid lane. That's going to be Che looking for a little bit more blood. Reckless, as you noted, does manage to make it out.
That was 1 versus 3 that Reckless just managed to escape all that CC. Getting out alive here. They still lost the first tower in the bottom lane. They, of course, lost the blue buff, and an Infernal Drake is sitting right in front of all the H2K members. So this first back here from Nuclear and the first pick of Xayah is paying off already. These guys lost the 2v2 lane in Game 1 and 2, but now they're winning that lane against Fnatic, and they're using the advantage to secure the Drake and tower.
It's a good look coming in right now for H2K. Fnatic just slightly behind in gold. Towers now evened up, and Infernal Drake backing them up. And I just have to wonder, Xayah is doing so well no matter who gets their hands on it. Is this just the third 80 carry to add their name to the ban list? Is it going to be Tristana, Kalista, Xayah every game from now on?
It could be, but what Fnatic is saying is that we're happy for you to play Xayah. They knew they had the Sivir left up available. They were more than ready to make that trade. And I think it's just a confidence thing in their ability to 2 versus 2. But Nuclear and Che definitely look so much more confident when they are playing the Xayah Alistar in this bottom lane matchup. So I think that H2K, they found at the very least their comfort AD carry. So far they're making it work, but you have to respect a lot as well how Jankos is using his pressure to help them succeed by moving down and taking that tower too.
Once again, though, eyes on the next big play. Pressure not in the favor of Fnatic as that mid lane is so close to collapsing. But definitely not an easy take for H2K. Would take a large commitment of resources.
Well, H2K will have the window again to actually leave the bottom lane and get that mid lane tower down. It is so low. Nuclear will kill this last minion here, and then he can freely go towards the middle lane, force Caps to play more passive, and secure the turret here. They are currently looking for it, and February also gets a nice trade, not to kill Caps, but get him low. Force him to play even more defensive in lane, or he will die to a gank. So this is a really good ulti from Febiven, and it's just setting up all the pressure around mid. You can see Caps, he realized 50% HP, he needs to leave.
No pots in his inventory. There's no heals on that Morgana. No option to defend here. That means yet another tower gain for H2K. It may not be a bloody game, but H2K are playing it pretty clean here.
Exactly that, Dracos, because now they have the option to start playing around the Rift Herald, and that becomes, or adds another layer to allow H2K to start sieging onto these tier 2 towers. So now I want to see this bottom lane start moving around the rest of the map, start threatening towards that top tier 1 at the very least, make that Rift Herald a slightly higher priority.
Rift Herald still up and available, no dragon. One last outer tower remaining for H2K to take, but it's on the top side. It means going through Gnar, it means utilizing Odoamne, who is suffering a little bit in the matchup at the moment.
Well, for Odoamne, it's all about just stay alive, keep trying to get whatever farm you can, and then let the rest of your team carry. When you're sending Xayah bot lane again on H2K's side, it enables the Alistar to roam because there are constantly 2 lanes being pushed, bot lane and mid lane. Alistar can go into that jungle and hover around mid if he wants to, or he can just go to the top side and say, you know what, Gnar, I'm going to force you back now. Moby Boots is already there from Che. He is so active on the map, and now he's actually teaming up with Jankos.
And this is exactly what we wanted to see from them. H2K looks so much more confident when Jankos has that additional engage alongside him, and it looks like they're going for play up top.
Gnar coming in for Soaz, can make it much harder for him to escape. Has a lot of CC in the kit, but it may not be enough. They're moving forward. They're looking for a little bit more. The chain CC hasn't even gotten to use a single ability. Silence. Finally, he's going to get a leap out. Throws Big Ben at him, but I think it's going to be too little too late. Nom, nom, nom. Odoamne not even going to need it. Yanko's going to take the kill.
Perfect death squad from H2K. There is no vision from Fnatic in the top half of the river. They already wanted to make this play around Rift Herald, and they decided to pick up a kill as extra. Way too much CC for Soaz to deal with, and they're able to get first blood in Game 3.
And the only thing Fnatic can do now is try and get the bot lane tier 1 tower, because they have no Drakes they can take. They are pushing currently with Reckless and Jesses. TP is available for both top laners, so this should be a tower for Fnatic, but losing the top lane tower for it, losing the Rift Herald, there could be another tower. It is looking very, very tough for Fnatic in this early game, and H2K, clean execution.
And this is the H2K that so many people expected coming into the semifinals and coming into playoff. Clean macro, strong early game. You have all these great individual players that just seem to work so well as a team. But against other top teams, they always seem to struggle. They always seem to underperform, but now they're making it work against a Fnatic, who, let's not forget, did finish 11-2 during the regular season.
And now H2K taking advantage. They know they have the tempo lead on the top side. They're going to try to utilize that Rift Herald to keep the pressure up. Fnatic very behind on the play at the moment. Pushing in on the bottom side. Nuclear's going to be there to match him. They know Broxa is not nearby. Nuclear is safe now to approach the tower to clear these waves. That's going to stop the Fnatic push in their tracks, but at the end of the day, it's still just a bit more damage on the top side in favor of H2K. We're going to have to see what they do next to keep this advantage going. Yeah,
next objective should be that Ocean Drake. When you kill all the outer turrets this early, it actually tends to slow down the game for about 5 minutes, because there are no major objectives you can go for anyway, other than, of course, in this case, that one Drake that Fnatic might have to just surrender because they're getting pushed in both mid and bottom lane. And then you're kind of just waiting for Baron to become the next big thing for H2K.
But also, it's really important that you not only maintain this gold lead, you don't want to be giving away things like your mid-tier 1 tower, but you also maintain vision control in the enemy's half of the map. When there are no tier 1 towers standing in your way, and you know you have that slight gold lead, you should be in a favorable position to set up that deep vision, maybe look for a pick, but primarily, as you rightly said, Deficio, give you control over these future objectives that H2K will have an easier time to set up for.
And then you also start just taking away jungle camps. Like, deny all the resources possible so Broxa can't farm anything. And whenever Fnatic are showing in a lane to take down a minion wave, well, H2K either look for that pick against him or just go on the other side of the map and have a numbers advantage. But for now, though, Fnatic are still not that far down. They can't actually fight back. It is just very tough when you've already seen this Alistar roam around with the Sejuani, and you need to respect that.
Jez is doing what he can, but he sees multiple members trying to clear out the Fnatic vision he just placed, so he's going to look to roam just a little bit deeper. Not taking too many risks, but wants to make sure he has as much information as possible. Knows the Ocean Drake is a potential option. Maybe one that Fnatic are willing to fight for.
But you can see in the mid lane, H2K always saying, let's push mid first so Caps cannot move, and then we can start going down the river and go for the big objectives here. The Syndra is still sitting at the tier 2 tower, not even nearby, and as we said before here, you just have to give up these river objectives and see the enemy team take them.
And it's also really important to have that mid push too. For any viewers at home, wanting to try and improve in your rank 5's experience, it also allows you to get that deep vision into the enemy half of the jungle, because Fnatic, you can still see they still have a fair amount of wards around the river, but H2K were able to push that back and get their own deep vision because they had that control over mid. And that's why we see so much priority from so many teams right now trying to invest resources into their mid laners so that it becomes easier to get this push. And right now, a lot of that pressure is, as you already said, coming from Che.
Fnatic, though, not playing too scared. H2K back to look to reset the map. Odoamne, though, now looking a little bit hungry. Rupture is going to connect onto Broxa. Chain CC just going to keep it going. If they take down the jungler, they can get the Baron. But he does manage to make it out. Now it's Odoamne who's in trouble. He's going to get picked off. Fnatic finding a way back into this game.
Big kill here for Fnatic, stopping H2K from actually getting further ahead. That was an all-in engage on the Gragas jungle. Ended up backfiring. We're still only 18 minutes in, so hard to get much more than just one kill.
But it will slow H2K down just a little bit. And look, they're still trying to go for these invades. H2K and Fnatic should know that either one are trying to set up for this red.
Contesting it.
Yoink.
Yeah, Cap says no. Reckless is red. And Broxa says
red.
no, it's my red. So, not everybody gets what they want, but H2K at least deny it over to the 80 carry. Nuclear now gets an opportunity to free hit onto the tower. Won't be so free if the pressure keeps going. Broxa leaping forward, but no body slam, or no flash rather. Makes it difficult to connect that body slam. However, Fnatic just trading pressure.
Yeah, again, Fnatic want to keep Source in the side lane with Black Cleaver, trying to just push and choke at. Right there, Febby was sitting in mid lane, so if Broxa had found the engage, they could maybe have tried, but there were no big ultis, no Gragas ulti, no Sivir ulti to actually really set up the fight. So they have to just kind of wait for these cooldowns. The game is still so even in terms of gold. It's just the Drakes being in favor of H2K at the moment.
But now the Baron spawning in about a minute's time. Shockwave comes down onto Caps.
No mana left, but Soaz is here. He's looking for the follow-up. He's not even going to need the Mega. One more proc. That's the Hyper. Easy pickup for Fnatic.
And this is one of the reasons Gnar is so successful in Europe. You win the side lane split pushes, you push in the enemy top lane, and then you leave. You go towards your team, either as a Mega Gnar, or in this case as a Mini Gnar, and you just join these potential ganks, these potential fights. This is the all-in from H2K, using everything on trying to kill Broxa with the Feast, but he gets to flash out in time, and then it's a really good ulti to knock Odoamne right back in the team after he got stunned by the Syndra. This is the next fight we get to see. Look at the bottom lane. This was Source pushing in the Cho'Gath and leaving. Febiven ends up being caught out in mid.
And you even had Broxa coming in through the river as well, and I think that was just another lapse in judgment from Febiven, not properly appreciating who was visible on the map and whether he could look to try and make that kind of a play.
Yeah, basically what happens in this situation, and this is something the coaches talk a lot about, is the communication lacks for just a moment. The top laner does not call early enough, hey, the enemy top lane has gone missing, he could be mid lane, careful. So the mid laner is like, oh, okay, I'm not really thinking about what's happening in the bottom lane right now, I think maybe Source is back in base, and then suddenly Gnar shows up, and both members go like, ah, guys, that was a simple one, we could have fixed it. Anyway, let's get some fights.
This is pushing forward, no one else here to do damage. Broxa on the way, no flash body slam. Your eyes on Odoamne, though. He is trapped on the bottom side of the map. Already used that TP. Cannot join these fights. So Fnatic are guaranteed a man advantage via the power of Soaz's TP and already have pressure in their favor. Throws him out just a little way out.
And you can see as well how the map seems to have shifted slightly more in the favor of Fnatic after those 2 kills happened, because H2K, they tried to force that fight in mid, it backfires. Febiven, he tries to just put a bit of pressure down mid, and it backfires as well. And now Fnatic, after getting a bit of extra gold onto their 2 solo laners, the fact that Odo doesn't have his TP, Fnatic just feel a lot more confident. They're controlling the side waves extremely well. And they're the ones that are always forcing H2K to be wary of that potential Baron Rush.
Yeah, it's quite funny that H2K actually, all they had to do for the last 5 minutes was just push your lanes, set a bit of deep vision in, and wait for Baron to spawn, because you have a Cho'Gath. You can nuke down the Baron and feast it. Yep. That's kind of your way to get further ahead in the game. But they opted into these all-in fights. And then, of course, after, as you said, with Source moving around. So now they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do, which is aim for this Baron here with the Feast.
But they also want to try and get the teleport out from Source. Right now, there are no wards for him to come into. Here he comes.
Not sure if it's spotted. Nuclear going to get hit up over the wall. The heal does come out. H2K starting to feel bad about this one, but it's Caps who's isolated. Beautiful use of the blast cone. Oh no, H2K are caught in the middle of the team. They need to pick one avenue or they're gonna get pinched. Now pulling back to safety, looking for the disengage, trying to get this fight away from them. Black Shield gonna block everything in their exchange. Featherman is gonna get popped. Caps is knocked out as well, and Soaz is going mega. Nard into the wall and taken down. That's the double.
And a great team fight for Fnatic. They get the three-pronged attack from behind, from the left, from the Baron. They're going to get the clean ace, and they're going to make the crowd go wild as Fnatic secure a Baron.
And that's the coordination we like to see from Fnatic in these fights here. Multiple members coming from multiple flanks, and then it's Broxah on the Gragas with the body slam flash engage. He did not do that in the semifinal. He never set up the team for success in team fights, but this time he did. Soaz joins in right after, and Caps also. With this Syndra, 2 games in a row, being so hard to play against.
And I feel like Caps just did so much work in that fight because he drew their attention. He used the blast cone beautifully.
And here, H2K needs to stay together and just go towards the Syndra. But when they start walking down towards Soaz, they allow Caps back into the fight. They allow the rest of Fnatic to come in, and look at Broxah.
And yet again, you can see the knock-up into the follow-up, allowing them to get onto the backline. The shockwave just isn't there. Caps is not threatened at all, so he flashes into the fight and shuts down Featherman. And then there's only Soaz and Nuclear left to fight against each other, and Soaz comes out ahead every time.
Yeah, the only thing that was important here between the two teams was the actual fight, nothing else. So when H2K do not chase the Syndra...
Soaz?
Actually, let's see.
Houdini? Is that you? Are you gonna make? No, you're gonna die. All right, well, goodbye, Soaz. That's a classic Fnatic moment, boys.
But they used a lot of ultimates to get him down. They used the ulti from Featherman and from Yanko, so big engage tools are unavailable. And this should give Fnatic the freedom to continue to push, but they still have 2.5 minutes left.
But it's 4v5 though, so Fnatic will have to respect the fact that H2K are still staying around. Featherman though is in the bottom lane at the moment, so he's not actually stopping Fnatic. He's going for a tower push on his own. He could have just gone mid right there and they would have stopped Fnatic from doing anything.
Maybe not confident, and for good reason. Oh, if Leandries could actually kill someone. Odoamne is going to get knocked down. Featherman, they don't even care. Fnatic are going to take the 4v4, knowing they have the advantage. Featherman, what are you doing? You're going to grab a tower.
Get the tower.
But it doesn't matter. You're going to lose 2 back in exchange. Fnatic are just going to keep the pressure up.
And they can look towards that inhibitor as well because Odo is down. Nuclear, he's going to get some of his health back. But again, ultis are unavailable for H2K. I think it's going to be difficult for them to force a fight onto Fnatic.
Moving in, looking for a little bit more. Fnatic, they want to break the base wide open, but H2K, this is the most pressure they've had on them this series. They lost game 2 pretty decisively, but here, the decision-making is starting to falter.
So the play they're trying to pull off in the bottom lane, let's get the replay of a lot of Syndra damage when she is pretty fed. Nice ulti from Nuclear though to stay alive, but Odoamne, of course, can't really get out after this. But the play we saw just before here against the Gnar, it's something we've seen quite a lot of. When you lose Baron, they all group as 5 and they try and go to an unexpected lane and kill one member to then delay the Baron push from happening. But obviously then after you kill that member, you gotta go 5 together to stop the 4. Otherwise, you actually didn't get an advantage and they will still push it down. So Fnatic get a few more towers for themselves.
Gold lead extends once again, 41.7 to 48.1. Healthy lead for Fnatic. May not have the Infernal, but aren't going to need it with a lead like that. Unless this game continues for another 20, 30 minutes. Reckless feeling pretty comfortable in that side lane. As the Giant Slayer, as well as 2 crit items built. Working towards that Infinity Edge. Caps, really the man you have to keep your eyes on once again. Similar to game 2, he is an absolute nightmare to go up against. And even Cho'Gath isn't looking too tanky in the face of all that penetration.
Only now at H2K starting to get those magic resistance items. You can see that nothing major has even been completed, so Caps, he just shreds through the front line of H2K, but he's found multiple times the back line as another stun lands onto Nuclear. H2K, they just have to stall this game out as long as possible. Similar situation to game 2. The true late game is what H2K need to get to because they still have that big wombo combo team fight available to them. But Fnatic, they're not allowing them. They're just splitting them up across the map, never giving them that opportunity to find that full 5v5.
Fnatic, excellent game so far. One or two small mistakes. Soaz caught out on his lonesome, but the team recovering well, punishing H2K. Some questionable decision making.
It's been a game where Fnatic have executed some really good team fights. The one around the Baron where technically both teams were even. H2K ended up getting flanked from every single angle possible in that jungle, and Fnatic find the engage they needed. That was really the big one to put them far ahead in the game here, securing Baron after. Currently, with all the outer turrets gone, only needs the base, and it can be difficult to push all the way in, so typically waiting for another Baron to spawn is acceptable, and play around that one.
That's going to be the catalyst. That's going to be the arena, Deficio, when the team maybe looks to force another fight. H2K, though, despite their gold deficit, not looking too out quite yet. Although it may just be the case now. Odoamne gonna have to run for his life. Righteous Glory is coming in. Alistar using the ultimate to try to disengage, to try and buy time, hoping to be the only member of his team to fall. Chase still alive, is gonna drop. Soaz, you cannot run away from a mini Gnar, but Jankos is there to back the team up. Meanwhile, it's Nuclear pushing on the side lane. Fnatic are pushing in for more. They want the inhibitor, and there is not enough members here to stop them, but the shockwave onto Reckless. And the creep wave will delay the push. That's
the important one. He killed the entire wave, a big one that was built up there for Fnatic, so they can't actually take down the tower instantly. 10 seconds on Shade, then he's alive. Nuclear has now joined the team after the big wave was pushed in the bottom lane. So Fnatic should reset, push out the lanes once again, get your control wards, set up for that Baron that's spawning in 1 minute and 20 seconds.
So the play ended up working out for H2K, but it was very risky. Again, H2K sends someone off to the side lane, allowing Fnatic this opportunity to force a fight. And you think that this is when they're going to break into the base, but Featherburn is able to save the day. So now, with the Baron spawning in about a minute, it's a big opportunity for them to set up, but H2K, they were just trying to get some vision around the jungle. They knew that the Xayah was in the bottom lane, and they just did not respect Fnatic.
Oh, high chance they thought Fnatic had gone back to base and just reset the entire map, and then suddenly they get surprised by the engage. Luckily for them, they only lose one member, and Featherburn then with the ulti to kill this massive wave.
Yeah, and we saw both of the carries, both of the damage threats on the side of Fnatic pursuing Che were not able to follow up on the slows that Soaz putting out, so very fortunate, as you mentioned, for H2K that they survived that exchange. Now Baron 30 seconds away. Fnatic still hold the gold lead and the item advantage. Oh, beautiful play coming in. Looks like it might just be the disengage, though. Fnatic not wanting to force this fight. Looking for something a little more on their terms as H2K now look to disengage.
You can see again, Soaz still in the bottom lane. Level 16 has the teleport up. Fnatic continuing to utilize that split push threat. This is what gave H2K so much trouble in game 2. Fnatic are taking advantage of it once more, as H2K still try to find the fight, but just keep struggling.
Soaz backing off. Maybe looking to complete an item here as he retreats. It is going to be the Locket coming in. Scheduled now for double Lockets on the Fnatic lineup. Of course, Locket, Gargoyle, Stone Plate.
Oh, it sounds so good, so rarely works.
Disgusting interaction, but yeah, as you mentioned, not quite as popular as we expected when you theory craft the math, right? We're like, 3K shield, but a lot of gold investment for that.
First, the Fnatic are still pushing out mid, letting the minions do all the work in the side lane. Odoamne is actually not killing them just yet. This tower is taking even more damage, down to about 7-8% HP.
And the Baron's still on the cards for Fnatic. They're happy to just buy time as Broxah goes in.
Going to lay down a little bit of damage. Both teams poking at each other. That's the first source of CC. Reckless going to burn on the hunt. Odoamne is in trouble. Gargoyle Stoneplate does come out, but so does the ultimate from Caps. Rupture is going to connect. Soaz moving in! Now looking for a little bit more. He's going to back off. They want to get the kill going. Yanko's going to get the ult for the disengage. Pulling back, the silence comes over the wall. Soaz leaping forward, throwing down the slows. Mini Gnar is on the way. He's going to be able to chase anybody he wants. Caps is off to the side. Once again, it's H2K in the pinch. Shockwave is not good, and that means a fight for Fnatic. Jesus fearlessly flashes forward. It is effortless as Fnatic look to clean up H2K in the jungle.
Such a good team fight again from Fnatic. They're actually going for another one.
Oh, Featherburn in trouble. Little bit of a slow. Reckless is on the hunt, trying to get as much movement speed as possible. Binding going to connect onto Jankos. Might just be a dead Sejuani, but at the end of the day, massive advantage to Fnatic.
And Fnatic were tired of waiting. They go for the fight. Soaz sets everything up, and then the rest of Fnatic collapse on the H2K lineup. We're going to game 4 with Fnatic in the lead.
Coming in, looking confident. The execution in that fight was flawless. A beautiful play from Soaz to kick it all off. This Gnar is absolutely unstoppable, and as Che just throws his body onto the pyre, and H2K starts to burn. It is Fnatic who will take us to a match point in this series.
Eventually, Dracos, they gotta play around for some more kills.
And got it, nice. Yay! See Parasipers.
2 kills to 15 in favor of Fnatic. Things looked so good in the early game for H2K. They were playing around the map beautifully. They had a good advantage down in the bottom lane. Everything just looked good, and then just a few bad setups. They tried one play in the mid, and then Featherven died as well. And then after that, Fnatic, they just took re-control of the game. The momentum was in their favor. And then fight after fight, play after play, everything was constantly going in the favor of Fnatic.
Yeah, after Fnatic got back in that game, H2K rushed down to Baron and tried to. And that was the kind of game-winning team fight for Fnatic, with the 5 versus 5 going in their favor. And the Sivir had some issues in the laning phase, was very good in the late game. It was, again, more about actually the solo laners on Fnatic. Saw us winning the side lane the further we get into this game. And Cap's Syndra showing up big time. Galio was banned by H2K. They could have just taken the Syndra on their own, unless they were so afraid of some counterpick from Caps. There was otherwise no reason to not just grab the Syndra.
Gnar and Syndra seem unbeatable in the hands of Fnatic, because Soaz, last game he was 0-3, and he was still that side lane strat, still putting down that pressure. Caps, despite maybe a rougher start in this game, is still consistently performing on this pick, and we have to see some adjustments coming in from H2K.
And guys, one thing we didn't really talk about, Soaz still undefeated on this Gnar. He's yet to lose a game this summer. You have to wonder, when are they going to take him off this champion?
I mean, the thing is, they are beatable 100% on these champions. It's just harder to do because Syndra and Gnar are fairly easy to execute, and it's something these teams have been playing with for such a long time. They're so used to these different champions, and we're not seeing the same success for Cho'Gath, as an example, one of the newer picks in the meta still for the last few weeks.
Yeah, not working out. Well, Fnatic secured themselves a lead in Game 3. Let's send it over to the analyst desk to break down the action.
Thank you very much, Drake. Also, a lot of sentiments at the analyst desk here was the fact that Fnatic individually, 1v1, they seem to be rising above and taking the momentum of the arena and outplaying their opponents. If that is uneasy to execute, champions will leave that in the middle. But I'd like to jump straight into one replay, 22 minutes in, rather, because this is where Fnatic really takes over the game when it was relatively even.
Yeah, actually, the game was kind of close because they had kind of a struggle in the bot lane, Reckless not dominating the way he did for the first 2 games. And at this moment, there is good initiative from Fnatic, but H2K seems to not communicate the perfect way, and Soaz shows himself on Gnar the way he did for the whole summer split and actually pushed the backlane away. And the conversion is so good from Fnatic from this point that it's extremely hard for H2K to come back with their setup.
I think whenever you find yourself in a predicament like H2K, it's very clear that Fnatic, when the situation is even, when the situation is like this late game composition from both sides where both teams are very strong, they're going to be bested in team fights. Fnatic are plain and simple, better individually, so it's up to H2K to take some risks.
To take some risks, and you've especially pointed out when we were talking about the game, the Cho'Gath as kind of a trap for H2K, or specifically with the Gnar.
I feel like in this case, you know, if you're going to pick the Xayah, which is obviously the strongest AD when Tristana is out, is going to win those matchups bottom. It's a good pick, of course. Fnatic is picking up the Gnar. They're adapting something from the Misfits book. They also picked the Gnar blind pick. It seems like Europe doesn't know how to deal with Gnar in top lane. The way other regions do it is the Jace, and that is where the risk comes in, right? Jace as a pick, of course, it might end up in a situation where you lose the early game and you're going to be useless for a very long time until you reach 5 items. But H2K are in a situation where they need to take that risk.
There is something, if I had to make a diagnostic of what Fnatic did wrong in the semi-final, was not to put Soaz on a pick he can carry on. And for instance, the last game where Reckless went into Jhin, where he could have been on Sivir, which he did in this game, showed that Fnatic understood their mistake, fixed it, and now they are actually, I think, a huge step ahead of H2K in terms of understanding their win condition and they're trying to apply diverse situation where they can put pressure on H2K, where H2K seems to struggle just putting a simple plan in work, actually.
In working, yeah, because we saw from that first fight on that H2K really didn't have a lot of means to get back into the game. We're going to take a look at another replay where Fnatic, they win another fight out in the mid lane, and well, Soaz is just going to tease them a little bit, but then going to have a great engage by Broxa, which also was a difference compared to what we saw in the semi-finals.
Yeah, Broxa's on point. I think also this teamfight shows the problem with Cho'Gath. He walks in, gets kited, and also it's so hard to catch anyone. And then after that, the re-engage comes, Cho'Gath is completely out of position.
Now has a flash, so at no point Shay should be actually knocking anyone back but the Gnar, because it's the biggest threat at this point in the team fight. And then everybody used the summoners, so Broxa can free engage, Caps is on the side, and everybody's actually catched, and no one can escape the severe rebounds. So then, like, it's free DPS for Reckless at this point.
Like when I want to elaborate on the point where Cho'Gath, I feel like is a trap, especially in Europe. We see that people that have success with Cho'Gath are the patient top laners. You have to be very, very patient with Cho'Gath. You don't have to walk in. You're supposed to just wait. When the enemy team commits, you press down your Q. When you land your abilities, then Cho'Gath is amazing. He has this unlimited potential, very low cooldown on his spells, a lot of CC. You need to just be patient. No one ever is. He gets kited by the Gnar, and he's going to be in a rough situation.
Yeah, and you also have to ask yourself the question, if you can't be patient, it's not the way you can play. Just try a different pick, obviously. Yeah. So that's what I want to focus on now when we go into match point for Fnatic. And the only chance for H2K to get back into this game, they picked blue side for that match point. So what adaptations would you like to see come in, Tabati?
I would like to see H2K going on a draft where the win conditions are maybe a little bit more obvious, but a little bit more easy to get. They are playing good drafts, but very hard to actually apply, and it's not their own style. So just get back into their comfort zone and try to win the lane a little bit more than trying to do very tactical things that they don't seem to be good at today.
I think, plain and simple, I think they need to drop the Tristana red side ban. I think banning Tristana Kalista doesn't seem to work out because Xayah is very dominant in bottom. The AD carry ban doesn't do much. I want to see them drop that ban. I wanted to pick Gnar very early on because Soaz has showed that he doesn't have a response to it. They even banned it in one of those games when Fnatic was blue side. And if they can't do that, make sure to put Odoamne on a matchup that he counters the top lane and then try to play around mid-top to try to create an advantage. I want to see a Camille of some sort. I want to see a carry from Odoamne. I want to see some potential where he can actually make something out of this advantage that he's getting against Soaz in this push, because Soaz is playing very defensive to avoid these ganks. Very good from him, but you can get more out of it if you're actually a carry up top.
You want to see Odoamne pick a carry and challenge Soaz in his own house and maybe turn the tides for H2K. We'll see. The series is on the line for H2K when they return to the stage. Can they tackle the pressure and take us to Game 5? Find out when we come back.
We get geared up and ready for